Alright guys, how you doing? It's Rabea, I hope you're all well. So it brings me great pleasure to introduce to you Neural DSP Archetype Rabea X, which is the newly updated, slightly overhauled version of my Archetype plugin. X meaning cross-compatible, so yes, it will come to Quad Cortex eventually, but it's the first step in making that change coming to Quad Cortex. I'm hugely proud of this plugin, as you probably know by now. It's made it onto pretty much every record that I've done since it came out. In this video, I just want to take you through the new additions and some of the new sort of features and just general overhaul aspects of the plugin. So let's crack on. So you should be able to see a screen grab of the plugin right now. The first major change is the UI. So the first thing you'll notice is how the utilities are along the bottom, much like Cortex Control and the other X updated plugins. So we've got our tuner, our MIDI, metronome, settings, all that stuff is along the bottom. And then just generally they've made it look a little bit cleaner from the old school plugins. Not only that, the GUI has been slightly updated, so all the graphics here look slightly more HD, a little bit crispier, which I really like. Especially the gold on the front of the crunch amp just looks really nice. Anyway, so the first major change is the UI. So the next addition, the next thing we added to this update was in the high gain amplifier, we added a second cab captured by my good friend Nolly, who you all know, of course. He's such a legend, and originally I wanted him to do the IRs for my original Archetype plugin, but he wasn't available to do it. In any case, came around to the X update, I was like, please man, can we get at least one cabinet captured by you? It'd be really nice to include it in the plugin. So it's worth saying that the IRs that we did for the original Archetype, I'm a huge fan of, but I just wanted to get one cab done by Nolly because he's really good with that stuff, and he has a great collection of speakers, so I wanted to add that to it. So much like the other cab sections in the plugin, how you have two speakers for the clean, as you can see, you've got two speakers there. For the crunch, you've got two speakers. And now finally, in the high gain amplifier, you've got two speakers. So you've got the original V30 that we used, which was actually one of Nolly's speakers sent over to Finland to capture. But then we now have another V30 done by Nolly himself. So you've got two different kinds of V30s, and they use the same mic collection. So your 57, your 421, your 184 condenser, your AKG 414s, and then your ribbons like your Royer and your Bayer Dynamic. So you've got a new cab for the high gain section. On top of that, the next major update is the look and functionality of the Overlord synth. It's changed dramatically from how it looked on the original Archetype Rabea plugin. In my opinion, this is way clearer, it's way easier to understand, and it gives you a little more of a visual aid of what's actually happening to the signal when you're messing around with it. As an example, when I use the resonance control over here in the filter section, you can see you start to get a peak there, a resonant peak. So it kind of gives you a visual aid of what it's actually doing to the sound as you move the cutoff up and down the frequency spectrum, which I think is just a really cool addition. On top of that, and this is really fun for those who like synth or like to, craft different sounds, we've got three new waveforms in our oscillators. So you've got your sine wave, you've got your triangle, your sawtooth, we've got square, but the three additional ones now are pulse, white noise, and pink noise. And what's really cool about the noise filters are they allow you to do things like synth hats and stuff like that when using the arpeggiator, and also create a nice amount of like top-end information when you're doing pads and stuff like that. But overall, the general feel and workflow of the synth to me is way cleaner. It's way easier to see what you're doing, and I just think that that's fantastic. When you look at the arpeggiator, you've got your 8 steps in the scale, you've got your key, so you can choose what key you're in, major and minor, octaves 2 below, 2 above, your pattern, and then of course your subdivision, as you can see here. Next, you've got your amplifier. Now, again, having the visual aid is super useful. So when you use the attack feature, when you bring it down between decay and attack, you can see exactly what it's doing to the overall sound, which is very cool. The next addition that they've included, which I think is amazing, and I actually didn't know they were doing this, is the glide feature. So I'm going to give you an audio demonstration of it very shortly, but the glide feature is a very cool addition. It just changes the way that you move between notes. So the higher the glide pot is on the plugin, means say you play a root note and then an octave, it will nicely glide up to that note, and it's very cool having that in there. The very last thing that I want to talk about super quickly is, as you know, if you've bought this plugin, I included a hell of a lot of presets. I think I did like over 100 presets when you download it. And a lot of people said how much they enjoyed having all those presets to give them starting points with regards to creating tones with this thing, because there's a lot going on. But what we decided to do this time was actually organize them. So when you go down to my preset list, you've got your legacy presets, as in the ones from the original Archetype, and then your X presets, which are all the new ones I created for this update. But the cool thing is, when you scroll across, they're all divided into subfolders, which is very, very cool. As you can see, ambient, creative, crunch, fuzz, high gain, low to mid gain, and synth. And they're all nicely organized out, so it's a lot easier. Oh, I want to use a crunch tone, I can go in and find one. And the same goes for the X presets. Oh, I want to use a high gain tone. There's a bunch in there that I've added. Oh, I want to use a new synth sound. There's a bunch in there that I've added. It's super easy to find your way around all the different presets at this point. So those are all the changes. New cab, organized preset folders, bunch of new filters, and glide feature on the Overlord synth. So let's crack on and let me show you how some of it sounds. Okay, so let's crack on. The first things first, I've updated the default preset when you open the plugin. If you want to use the original one, you can. It's in the legacy presets folder, but I've just updated it to include the new cab on the high gain amp and so on. But when you load it up, this is how it's going to sound. The crunch amp, jack of all trades, beast of an amp. Sounds really, really nice, as we always knew that it did, because it's a great amplifier in real life. And again, it can do the push clean low mid gain thing, or you can boost the gain all the way up and it's just filthy. So that's cool. I very mildly changed the sound of the clean amp just a bit. In case you didn't know, that the mid boost and the high boost are inspired by the 29 pedals Una that we put on the clean and the crunch amp just in the front. Gives you a 2.5k boost in the mids, and I think it's a 12k boost in the high end, but it's really nice to have there. And then, you know, with the clean amp you can have the compressor. Really, really nice. And now the main change that we made to the high gain amplifier is, of course, adding the Nolly Cab as well as the original. So we've got 57 and a 121, and this is how the high gain amp sounds now. Turn off the reverb and delay. I think it sounds really, really cool. It's really nice to have that different tone to the speaker cab. So this was the original 57 121 combo. Nice and thick, but when you add Nolly's 57, it's a bit more bold in the mids. Nice and open, and again we can even go further by putting Nolly's 121 in. I like mixing the two together. I like having the ribbon 121 from the original cab and the 57 from Nolly's cab, because it gives you that bottom end thickness from the original cab, which is a lot more low end in it, and then the open mid-range from Nolly's cab. So it's really nice to have that in there. And of course you got the time-based section as well. One of the things I always wanted to do with the default preset was just have out of the box usable sounds. So that kind of mid-gain sound, and then of course the high gain sound now, straight for riffs and fatness, and then the clean being super chimey. So straight out the box without having to really mess around with a lot, you've got a great sort of palette of tones to work with. And now the star of the show, the Overlord synth. This is probably the coolest, most ingenious thing that the Neuro guys came up with, and I can't believe it's this good. One of the things that people talk about a lot is the kind of the accuracy of it and the way it tracks, which is really great. And some people mention like the glitches and the pops that it creates. The reason that it does that is because when you slide your hand on the strings, those are all technically notes, and so it triggers the oscillators like this. But if you want to kind of get rid of that and negate it a little bit, because all it needs is a pitch, it doesn't need that high-end information so much. You just roll your tone all the way off and it becomes a lot less. So that's a very nice little tip that I've discovered throughout the last couple of years of having this plugin available. I normally roll the tone off, go to the neck pickup, and that is how I'll just generally try and use it. Is so sick. It always makes me smile when I just load up the default and play a couple of notes, because it's just so epic. But let me show you the glide feature. So at the minute it's all the way down. The original default preset, I set it just a little bit higher just to demonstrate. So the way it works is if you play a note, now play the octave above, and you can make that higher like this. Kind of sound like the sound from Catchphrase, if any of you are old enough to remember Catchphrase. It's a very, very useful feature, again, for creating textures and doing cool things with the synth. A couple of things to talk about, aside from obviously it looking very different, is the, for example, the visual aid now on the resonance control. So let me show you. I think that's very, very useful to see what it's doing and exactly how it's doing it. And the same thing here with the attack and decay knob. Obviously, that top line there is where the note starts and then how quickly it drops off. So it's if you want to make it a bit tighter, or for example, let me say I'm doing an arpeggiated thing like this. So it's very, very useful to have that, again, visual aid there. One of the things that this leads me on to really nicely is the new filters. So we've got white and pink noise on both sides. What I'll do is show you, if you leave them at full volume, they're going to sound kind of random on their own, unless you want that sound. But you can bring the level of it down. And on top of that, if I as you can hear, it's noise, but the cool thing is if you want to do the classic sort of synth hat thing, just turn the arpeggiator on, duck the decay. Let's choose a key. The pulse waveform. So hopefully the new UI makes sense to you guys. Let's just check out a few of the included presets that I've added with this X update. So you go into the preset list, X presets, and you can see they're listed out. So we'll start with some ambient ones because of course it's really, really good for ambient. So let's try long decay. So that would be long decay. Let's try another one. Octave chimes, this is a really, really fun one. So it's a cool kind of like vibey octave chime thing. What else we got? Swell it good. Let's see what this one sounds like. nice. And an ambient hole. Fuzz tones, let's do fuzz tone down. What else we got? As thick as you like. High gain. So I added quite a lot of different stuff in high gain. As you can see, some are designed around baritones and some are designed around just generally leady stuff. And yeah, there's a bunch to go through, but I won't go through all of them, but Big Riffs is a fun one. Fear Me 2, which is an updated Fear Me preset using the new cabs. So that preset is called Three Sides preset because it was inspired by Extreme's Three Sides to Every Story album when I was trying to relearn a bunch of Extreme solos, and I wanted to use the plugin to dial in a sound that got me close. And it's interesting, particularly with this preset, because look how low the gain is, and we're actually compressing it a lot, and we got the tight knob up quite high because anyone that knows that album, Nuno's tone on it is super sweet, and it's actually very low gain, and it's quite hard to play with that. But if you do that kind of sound, it's really, really rewarding when you get the leads down. It's just quite hard to play like that. But for all those who want to have a pop, I think it's a reasonably ballpark sort of sound in terms of dynamic and feel. So that's fun. Let's move on to some of the new synth sounds. So I started out by giving you the 16th hat thing I was mentioning. So when you're using it in the arpeggiated mode. So then I added a fifth into that as well as another preset, give you more of an 80s vibe. If you like that kind of thing, it's just kind of fun really. And then we get into some more of the kind of synth sounds that I really like. So this one's called Assign. new one, Cloudy Lead Synth 2, so it's just updated to use the glide control, so you can kind of mess around with that. Bring the glide down a bit. Pad lead synth. Again, what I'm trying to achieve with the presets inside the update is just more textures, more things that you can do with it within your song. So that could act as a really nice bed, doing an alternative melody underneath something that you've written. You know, there's so many ways to use it. This one's really good, Spice. I'm sure you know what this is inspired by. So there you go. There's a quick look at some of the different sounds and different features in Archetype Rabea X. Hopefully this video isn't too long, and for the most part the plugin hasn't really changed, but we've just added some really cool, useful features. I love having that second cab by Nolly. I think it sounds great. I think it opens up options for the high gain amplifier, gives you maybe a few more modern options. Having the extra filters on the synth, again, gives another element of sound design to the overall feel and sound of the synth. But yeah, other than that, it's more or less the same. It's just been updated to work with Quad Cortex eventually, and having that X version, it's just nice to be at this point and add those little tweaks that we thought about after the original one came out. I love the new UI design for the synth. I think they've done a fantastic job of redesigning that in such a way that makes it a little more easy to understand. Having those visual aids, I think, is just really handy. But in any case, as you probably guessed, I'm absolutely over the moon, immensely proud of this plugin, and I use it all the time. I use it all the time on every single recording that I've done. It's just infinitely useful to me, and I'm sure some of you guys out there are really enjoying it too. If you haven't picked it up yet, I'll link it in the description box below. You get a free trial, all the rest of it. If you already have it, get the free update, because all the presets are now organized, so it's very helpful. It won't affect any of your sessions, won't affect any of your other presets you've saved. They'll all be there, so there's no worry there with regards to updating to the X version. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below of Archetype Rabea X, if you've picked it up already. If there's anything you want to know, I could do another deep dive and show you some of the other features. In any case, thank you for watching this video. Thank you, as always, to Neural DSP for being legends. Like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching. I've been Rabea, and I'll see you all very soon.